give me 1 second to get onto YouTube. It's going to take me like 10 more seconds or so. All right, we're going to YouTube. We are live. Okay, here we go. Okay. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And Chag Sameach. Chag Pesach Sameach. So grateful that you are with us tonight. You know, this is the 6th day of the Omer. The Omer is counted every evening after nightfall. So we're there, we're close enough. From the second night of Passover, we started counting the Omer. And we are going to continue for 49 days until the night before Shavuot. So we say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu asfirat haomer. This is the 6th day of the Omer. The blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who commands us concerning the counting of the Omer. So we continue our service. Well, you might be saying, Rabbi, why do you have a picture of the synagogue and people? And I tell you that I miss people. I miss you all. I had a wonderful sabbatical, but I wanted to show a picture of real people standing next to each other. You know, I watched some stuff on television and I'm thinking, where are everyone's masks? Why are they not wearing masks? That's what it feels like. It's very unnatural for me to see people standing so close together without a mask on. So I just wanted to have a picture of real people standing together, unmasked. My son said to me the other day, Mom, in the olden days, you couldn't wear a mask into the bank, and now you can't not wear a mask into the bank. Just the irony of our lives. I thought I'd share that with you tonight. So Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So thrilled that you are here. And we are going to begin our service with the singing of Ma Yafeh Hayom. And we will begin. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Ma Yafeh Hayom, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. It is my pleasure to invite to our ceremonial bima at this time to read one of my favorite readings, Pat Gibbs to read May the Door. Pat, I'm going to have you unmute yourself if you're able to do so. There you go.
I lost my square there. I couldn't find where I was to unmute.
No problem.
Okay. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
May the door to this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for fellowship. May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture. May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride, envy and enmity. May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet. May it be too high to admit complacency, selfishness, and harshness. May the synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. And we continue with our candle lighting blessing. It is my pleasure to spotlight our very own Barb Johnson.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzibanu lahadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen. Thank you so much. And so we continue with the singing of Baruch Hu. And I ask if you are able to do so and care to, you may please rise, and then we'll go right into Shema. Lai, lai, la, la, lai, 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 la, la, 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 lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 lai. Baruch Hu et Adonai, Hamivorach, Hamivorach, Baruch Adonai, Hamivorach, Leolam, Leolam Va'ed. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due. Praise Adonai, to whom our praise is due, now and forever. Yah, lai, la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 la, la, lai, 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 lai. We continue standing. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Please be seated. And we continue with the Ahavta, and I will share my screen so we can chant together. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha v'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol meodecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'eleh asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'aderech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'kshartam leot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot bein einecha uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha leman tizkeru va'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'item kedoshim lelohechem ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim liot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. And so we continue in with our service with the reciting of Everlasting Love. I have asked Kathy Herback, who graciously stepped forward, because I have to tell you that I asked her via direct chat just as she entered the service. So she's really reading this cold, and we're so happy that she said yes. So go ahead, Kathy, and we have Everlasting Love.
Everlasting love you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohe Amo Yisrael.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you for letting me put you on the spot. And I have to tell you, I had private message Langston. Langston, do you want to go ahead and read for us? I'm really putting you on the spot because you missed my private message, but if you look in the chat, it's there. Do you want to read standing?
I can't read.
You can't read. Okay, no problem. No problem.
Standing on the parted shores of history.
Wait, my bad. Go ahead. Try again.
You didn't want me on.
I
Standing
do.
on the parted shores of history, we'll believe what we were taught. But ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promised land passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together.
Langston, thank you. You're a sport. You're a sport. Thank you. All right. So we continue with Mi Chamocha. As I was saying earlier, the problem with tonight is I'm MC Hammer, I'm cantor, rabbi, you name it. Let's try this now. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. No ra tehilo tosefele, no ra tehilo tosefele. Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. And so we continue, remembering that in 6 days, God created all of the heavens and the earth, and on the seventh day, God rested, reminding us the necessity that we too, who were created in God's image, also needs to take a break once in a while and to rest. And so we continue with the singing of Vishamru, reminding us of Shabbat peace. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti leolam, oti leolam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim Asa Adonai, et hashamayim ve'et haaretz v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, shavat vayinafash, v'shamru b'nei Yisrael et hashabat la'asot et hashabat ledorotam berit olam. And so we continue with our congregational tefillah, which can be found on the screen. And I ask everybody who is able to do so and cares to please rise at this time. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi agi tehilatecha. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh ha'kol, v'zocher chasdei avot v'imahot, u'mevi geula livnei v'neihem, lema'an shemo bi'ahava, melech ozer u'moshia u'magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, atah gibor le'olam Adonai, mechaye metim atah rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach morid hatal, mechalkel chaim bechesed, mechaye metim berachamim rabim, sohomech noflim v'rofei cholim, umatir asurim, umekayim emunato, lishenei afar, michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umido melech, melech memit, umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'ne'eman atal hachayot metim. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hametim. Ata kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, ukdoshim b'chol yom yahalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh. Please be seated. Did you hear me stumble a little bit? That's because I didn't realize that from the second day of Pesach, second day of Passover, we turn from Mashiv Haruach U'Morid Hagashem, the prayer for rain, and we go back to praying for dew, because officially in Israel, it is spring, and officially in Chicago, it is not. But starting tomorrow, I think it's going to be quite warm, so that'll be very lovely. But I wanted to tell a quick story before we continue with our Amidah. You see, during Passover, as with most festivals, there are something called, well, back in the Second Temple days, there was something called the Musaf, the extra sacrifice that was done in the Second Temple. And it was offered, this sacrifice, on festival holidays, Passover, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, as well as Rosh Chodesh, and of course, Yom Kippur. And that's why in festivals, it includes the Amidah during the Chol, during the week. It includes the Shema and the singing of Ani Adonai Elohechem, which you might recognize from the end of Yom Kippur. And you might say, well, why is this in our Musaf Amidah? The answer is very special story. The custom originated because there was a Persian king named Yazgadar, and he passed a decree forbidding the Shema from being said during services. So the rabbi said, no Shema, no problem. And they inserted it into the Kedusha of festival prayers. And they did this so that the children would not forget how to say the Shema. And of course, not only did they pray the Shema, they also prayed for the evil decree to be averted. Well, legend has it that King Yud-Gazar was swallowed at noon in his bedroom by a snake named Clyde. Okay, I'm just kidding about the name. I don't know what his name was, but I just thought I would see if you were paying attention. Anyway, the fact that King Yud-Gazar died was that the rabbis remembered this as a miracle. So they kept the Shema in the Musaf Kedusha. And now you know, as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story. So we continue with the singing of Shalom Rav. And so we continue with our service, a blessing for peace. Shalom Rav ad Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav ad Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. V'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol eid u'b'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael amcha tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Tasim leolam. Let's pause for a moment of silent meditation. Oh, say shalom b'romah, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru v'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. we come now to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of the Torah. And so I ask everyone who is able to do so at this time to please rise while we take our ceremonial Torah out of their ceremonial ark. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, ha'olam, ha'olam, amen. Al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, al shlosha divarim, ha'olam, ha'olam, amen. Please be seated. Our Torah portion for this Shabbat is a special portion because we are still in Pesach, in Passover. And so this Pesach Shabbat, we read about the story. We continue the Exodus story, the telling of the story. And were we a traditional congregation and were we in person, we would actually have 2 Torah scrolls tonight, one for the reading of Exodus and one for the maftir. The maftir, of course, is the completion or the final part of the Torah portion. And for this Shabbat, that would come from the book of Numbers. But tonight, I'm going to be reading from the book of Exodus, where the Israelites were about to embark, going through the Sea of Reeds. They were terrified. They had girded themselves ready to not only battle, but to leave Egypt, and they were frightened. And so we continue rehashing the miracles that happened, that God took the Israelites out of Egypt with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. And so it is my pleasure to call to our ceremonial bima to do our aliyah, our very own Paul Farber. Hamoed Peretz ben Lazer v'Gittel la'aliyah haTorah. And Paul, I'm gonna ask you to wait, don't move. I need 1 second. Don't move because I'm not ready for you. There's some technical difficulties. And now I'm ready for you.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamuborach. Baruch Adonai hamuborach le'olam hamed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech olam. Asher baruch banu mikol cha'amim. V'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Amen. Vayomru el Moshe, Hamibli ein karavim. And they said to Moses, what? There wasn't enough graves in Egypt? You had to bring us out to die in B'mitzrayim? Lekachtanu lamut b'midbar? Mazot asiti lanu. What have you done to us? Lahotzi anu b'mitzrayim, taking us out of Egypt. Halo zeh hadavar asher dibarnu elecha. It is not the very thing we said to you in Egypt, saying, b'mitzrayim lemor chadal mimenu, leave us alone. V'na'avda et mitzrayim, and we'll stay and serve the Egyptians. Ki tov lanu, because it's better for us to stay. Avod et mitzrayim, to serve the Egyptians, rather than mutenu bamidbar, rather than to die in the wilderness. Vayomer Moshe el ha'am, but Moses said to the people, al tir'u, hit yatzvu, or et Yeshuat Adonai. Don't worry, stand by and watch what God does. Asher ya'aseh lachem hayom, because God's going to work for you today. Ki asher re'item et mitzrayim hayom, because the Egyptians that you see today, lo tosifu lir otam od ad olam, you're not going to see them again. Adonai yilachem lachem, and the God is going to do battle for you. Ve'etem tacharishun, so hold your peace, or better yet, sit tight and see what happens. Hold on, Paul. 1 second. There we go.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher noton lanu Torah emet, v'chaye olam notav v'totenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Yasher Koach. Well done, Paul. Thank you so much. At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those of our families and communities who are ill and in need of healing. So this evening, we think of Elwood Frederick Bryan, Rick Westerman, Karen Levinson, Laura Albritton, Mark Zellman, Sarah Warch, Richard Hoffman, Evan Georgie Johnston, Kathleen Minardi, Margie Sufi, Sheila Alterman, Sharon Gutsky, Ronnie Brown, Carolyn Larry Nymark, Kathleen Archambault, Rabbi Ellen Dreyfus, Stefanu Michelasi, Denise Blackburn, Jen Bernstein, Larry Levine, Len Schultzman, Steve Tatiner, Rob Dicker, Scott Pensgard, Beverly Klein, Harvey Waller, Dolores Jakirski, Rabbi Dara Lerner, Valerie Foxman, Harvey Simpson, Laura Mendelson, and all who suffer whom we know not by name. Misha Berach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak Yaakov Ve'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech V'Rapeh Et Kol Cholei Yisrael Vayishlach Lahem Bimheira Refuah Shlema Refuah Tanefesh Refuah Taguf V'Nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless and heal all who are stricken. May the Holy One of Praise mercifully restore them to health and to vigor. May God grant them health of body, health of spirit, and of mind. And let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach avotenu mikor habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mikor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. And so it is my pleasure at this time to invite to our ceremonial bima to read our prayer for America, our very own Lena Benson.
O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing with those who are in need. Help us to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways we serve you. Bless our country that it may always be a stronghold of peace and its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within its borders, health and happiness within its homes. Strengthen the bond of friendship among the inhabitants of all lands, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And hi, Todd. So good to see you as well.
Shalom.
Thank you so much. And now to read our prayer for Israel it is my pleasure to invite to our ceremonial bima, Gail Farr.
O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace, send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And so we continue with a little drash, a little teaching about the Torah portion for Passover, for Pesach. So I don't know about you, but when I was younger, Passover was very difficult. My parents used to spring clean the house top to bottom. And we would change out the dishes. We would use one set of glass dishes for both milk and meat. And everything had to be right for Passover. We would search for Hamoed, we would search for leavening, and always make sure that the house was prepared for Passover. And I found it very interesting that my parents spent so much time scouring the house and making sure the house was right for Passover. And they never talked about making sure our soul was right for Passover. That wasn't the focus, right? Soul we do when? High holidays. House we do in the spring cleaning. Well, what I learned is that Pesach, Passover, is very hard work. And the Haggadah tells us that we really only need to recite the words Pesach, Matzah, and Maror, Passover, matzah, and bitter herbs, and we have fulfilled the basics. In other words, once you eat the kazait of matzah, once you eat the olive side piece, you say the words Pesach, matzah, and Maror, dayenu, you're done. But we're not known for taking the easy route, are we? Like, if you only do a Seder meal, dayenu. If you only clean your home for chametz, dayenu. If you only make Pesach cleaning into spring cleaning, dayenu. But what is it about the recitation of those words, the three words, Pesach, matzah, and maror, that informs us of a core message of Passover? They encompass the entirety of our story. The angel of death, Pesach, passed over our homes. We rushed to leave, only taking the unleavened matzah, only to encounter the difficulties, the maror, the bitterness that lay in what came after. But the essential work we do on Pesach, it is the work of memory. We tell the story. There are good times in stories, and then there are difficult things in stories. But the good news is that all Jewish stories go from oi to hooray. They go from bad news to good news. Sort of like that, remember that Jewish telegram? Do you ever hear that Jewish telegram? Telegram comes to the door. Telegram officer knocks on the door. Woman opens the door, reads the telegram, and it said, start worrying, details to follow. That's the Jewish telegram. Anyway, I digress. All right. But if you're not in the hooray of the story, if you're not in the good part of your story, it means that the story isn't over. You're still in the oi. So how do we know this? Because this is promised. It's promised. Before the Torah portion that we read earlier tonight, which is the Shabbat reading for Pesach, there's a section that says that Moses said to the people, remember this day when you went out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm. God took you out of here, and therefore no leaven should be eaten. So we have to remember this day and perform Pesach. You had to perform the Pesach, matzah, and maror, unless you happen to be stuck on the ship, the Ever Given, which was stuck in the Suez Canal. When we were enjoying our Seidarim, if you were on that ship, you didn't get to fulfill the mitzvah of Pesach, but you get a second chance. couple of Torah portions from now. I don't know if you knew about that. There is a second chance Passover. I'll teach you about that in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, if you weren't on the Ever Given, you're no longer in the physical bondage of Egypt. But we have to see ourselves as having felt that we had come out of that bondage with an outstretched arm and that mighty hand. But it's even more than that. In the Torah, we are reminded that God didn't just take us out of Egypt, but remained with us as a pillar of cloud by day and pillar of fire by night. The story speaks of difficulty, but that is how we metamorphosized into becoming God's people. While we were forced into peoplehood during our bondage in Egypt, it was only through the Exodus and the difficult times that we were able to become God's people. The Chazal, the ancient rabbis, tell us that difficulty then becomes the path to finding and serving our purpose in this world. Then we learn in a few chapters, Adonai, Adonai, El Rachun v'Chanun, in the same way that God is kind and compassionate. God didn't take us out of Egypt to drop us on our head. God took us out of Egypt, and even through the difficulties, we underwent a metamorphosis. And so for today, although we have faced difficulties in the past year or in general in our lives, God will not drop us on our heads. God has a plan. And if the plan hasn't been revealed yet, then it's still in the Oi. The story is not over. So as we come to the end of COVID Passover number 2, and perhaps are in the process of being freed from the bondage of the past year, what we have learned and how that has shown us as a way to serve God's purpose for us. These are the questions I'm going to be asking in the coming months. So now, in the words of the Haggadah, this year we were still kind of slaves. Next year, may we be free. Next year, may we celebrate Passover not only in Jerusalem, but hey, I'll settle for celebrating Pesach in Lombard as long as we can all come back together and maybe even without a mask. Shabbat Shalom. And now it is I just muted myself. Did you see that? I prematurely did that. Okay, let's try this again. You can tell I'm a little out of practice, right? First day back. Rabbi Camel did Tat Shabbat this morning. This earlier tonight. So he got the easy show. I'm still learning the controls on Zoom. Let's try that again, Jim, shall we? Jim, representing our board of directors, will be offering our announcements. Can anybody else not hear Jim, or is it just me? Nobody else can hear Jim? Jim? Now we can hear you.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
You got it.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom. I'm Jim Weiskopf, but I know all of you, so most of you know me. We have a couple things coming up in the future. On Thursday, April 8th at 7 p.m., join us for a special sisterhood program led by Kathy Herbach as she presents My Quilting Journey. She will share her 30-year journey in quilting and the lessons she had learned along the way. Notice the quilt right behind my head. That is Kathy's. And I will expect the check in the mail after Shabbat. Our congregational retreat will be in the end of this month, April 30th through May 1st. Now, it's free. It'll be in Lombard. It'll be in person in the parking lot. Information to follow soon. We're working on the final details now. So everyone has to come to retreat this year because 1, it's free, and 2, you don't have to drive to Olansing. So information coming. Lastly, on Sunday, April 11th at 11 a.m., please join us for our congregational Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day service, led by our rabbis and the 8th grade faculty and students. As a reminder, Zoom links for all these programs will be emailed out a few days before the programs take place. I want to thank our rabbi for leading us in services and in music tonight. And I'd like to say Shabbat Shalom to each and every one of you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom. And so we continue our service with the singing of Aleinu. And so we continue. Aleinu lisho, please rise. Aleinu lishabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu vikmishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vigoralenu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malachei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Please be seated. V'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lamelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad ushemo echad. At this time in our worship service, our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth and whose yortzeit we commemorate this Shabbat. We recall with tremendous love Ina Elkins, mother of Barbara Johnson, Joseph Sirabasi, brother of John Sirabasi, Esther Krupp, cousin of Terry Shapiro, Rose Mandel, mother of Craig Mandel, Evelyn Leah Swirling, aunt of Carol Nymark, Francis McGrath, father of Margaret McGrath, Max Perlman, father of Jay Perlman, David Allen Samuels, brother of Stephen Samuels, uncle of Mike Samuels, Sidney Blumen, brother of Lila Warshawski, Esther Gluck, friend of Gerald Wolin, Irving Mannheimer, grandfather of Brian Blumenstein, Leah Zeldin, mother of Robin Zeldin, Sally Levine Appel, mother of Jeffrey Appel, Louis Friedlander, father of Gary Friedlander, Shirley Gorin, grandmother of Beth Spenadel, Evelyn Moscow Froelich, muster of Esther Morales, Mike Shapiro, father of Sherry Balin, Paul Slutzker, father of Sharon Roth, and we also mourn the recent passing of Gail Kalish, aunt of Michael Field. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as together we recite Kaddish Atom, the mourner's Kaddish. Will the congregation please rise? Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'yalma divrach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, v'agalalu v'zman kari v'yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam u'me'al maya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. Osei shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to those among us who are bereaved. And let us say together, amen. Please be seated. Our closing song this evening is Esa Einai. And so we sing together Esa Einai, that I will lift up my eyes to the mountains. For where does my help come? My help comes from God who made the heavens and the earth. And so I wish you all this blessing as we go forth into the coming of spring, which seems to start tomorrow in Chicago, and also to the hope that God willing soon we can all be back together safely and eventually unmasked, but for now, to be safe. And so we sing Esa Einai. Esa Einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa Einai el shamayim ve'aretz ezri me'im Adonai. Osei shamayim ve'aretz esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri esa einai el harim me'ayin yavo ezri. May we rid the chametz from our lives like the puffiness of our arrogance. And tomorrow after sundown, when we embrace again the sweet taste of bagel and bread, may we all be blessed with enjoying the wheat in a puffier form. But until then, may you all be blessed. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom,
Shabbat
everyone.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
We
Chag
were a
Sameach.
small but mighty crowd tonight. We can all fit on
Yes.
one screen. It was lovely.
Yes.
Shabbat shalom. Have a good week, everyone.
You
You
too.
too.
Shabbat shalom.
Don't forget me, Sharon.
I'm not. Listen, Sunday, are you off? What's going on Sunday with you?
Sunday's beautiful. Sunday's
Really? All
great.
right, I'm going to try for Sunday 9 to 5. I'm out in Warrenville.
I'll be there.
Better
Thank
look.
you. Thank you. Okay.
All
I
right.
appreciate you.
I'll
Thank you.
shoot you a text.
Thank you. You're doing a
Okay.
mitzvah. You're doing a mitzvah.
I know I am. I'm going to really try hard. I'm not kidding.
Thank
I'm
you
really
again.
going to try for you. I'm going to be looking around, so don't worry.
Okay.
I'll
Bye,
get